I rise to move my amendment on taking out clause 124, and I'm doing that because, for two reasons. First of all, I think it is unnecessary, and it could be even more repressive than the law that this Labour government has already passed. I mean, let me be clear, I support the right to worship, to access places of worship freely and safely, and I would actually come along to anywhere where people are protesting and making life difficult for anybody who wants to worship. I think that's unacceptable. But this clause is not a targeted protection against genuinely threatening behaviour. It's a broad, low-threshold power that risks sweeping up lawful, peaceful protest on the basis of guesswork rather than evidence. Exactly in the previous group, again, Clause 124 allows conditions to be imposed where a protest may intimidate persons of reasonable firmness in the vicinity of a place of worship. And may is doing a lot of work here. So is vicinity. Neither is defined. Together they create a power that's open to misuse. This is not about stopping harassment or threats. We already have laws for that. We have strong laws. If someone is genuinely intimidating worshippers, the police already have plenty of powers to intervene. So what does this clause actually add? The real problem is that this clause allows restrictions to be imposed even where the protest is peaceful, so long as someone claims they might feel intimidated. That is not a hypothetical risk. Almost any protest that touches on controversial issues could be said to intimidate somebody. Pride marches, trade union demos, climate protests, peaceful protests against war or injustice. All could be caught by this wording if they happen to be near a place of worship. And in many places in our cities, particularly, I would say in London, particularly central Westminster, where so many protests happen, then it's very difficult not to be near a place of worship. And that creates a very real danger of rolling exclusion zones where protest is progressively pushed out of public space altogether, not because of evidence of harm, but because of location and perception. The Joint Committee on Human Rights has already warned about powers like this, where restrictions follow from assertion rather than demonstrated necessity. And once again, the risk is that enforcement becomes inconsistent, it's subjective and influenced by the popularity or political content of the protest. Articles 10 and 11 of the European Convention on Human Rights require necessity and proportionality. They also impose positive obligations on the state to enable peaceful protest to take place, not to hollow it out as this clause does. We should protect people from real intimidation, of course we should. We should not undermine the right to protest, though, by legislating on the basis of fear, speculation and guesswork. And I must say, the prescription of Palestine action seems to have been has been brought up today, and I would say it's looking slightly rushed compared with the government's reluctance to prescribe another potentially terrorist organisation, for example, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And I would like to ask why this government keeps legislating on issues we don't need and not legislating on things we do need. For example, some sort of control of facial recognition. That's something that you could usefully bring in. A question for the Minister. How will vicinity be interpreted in practice, especially in areas like central Westminster, where multiple places of worship actually sit quite closely together, which obviously creates a risk of a rolling exclusion zone? And what does Clause 124 add that's not already achievable through existing public order powers and criminal offences without lowering the threshold into speculation? I really think this government needs better advice on the legislation that they keep trying to bring through on. I say keep trying to bring through on. They are, of course, just pushing it through regardless and not listening. And I would say that this is another example of very bad law.